So first and foremost, I just want to thank you so much, truly, for spending your time with us and sharing this unbelievable information we're about to get into. So, Lyon Zonamyari, I'm sorry. It's like a spaghetti. The name's doctor, and we're talking about today an ancient system that's been used for eons, I guess we could say, right on this planet.
It's been for a long time, but very few people know about it.
Very secretive, not to be confused with numerology, although it does seem to have, it's a cousin. We'll call numerology a cousin of this, perhaps. But today we're talking about essentially the vibration of your name and what that really is and what that calls into your life in a sort of law of attraction way. So you are the doctor on this, Dr. Zonamyari. So thank you again for being here, and perhaps let's start with just a bit of an explanation of what this is.
Okay, well, it might surprise people, but from birth, you're given documented names. They create a blueprint, an energy blueprint, a vibrational energy that influences your personality, your character, virtues, vices, areas of both mental and physical health, for better or for worse. What's more amazing, the second part of this system, it shows how the individual letters from each of your names, they rotate in a specific sequence every year. And we can create a lifelong chart that shows which letters are active in which years of your life. Some are positive, some might be negative, some are in between. It's about the combination of all these letters. And it actually reveals events that are going to happen during that year and the way that you deal with them. So it's a very intriguing system, very intriguing.
It is, yeah. And so it sounds like the letters sort of correlate to a symbol, essentially, or how does that breakdown work? Because I know there's 64 personality types, and it ties into the I Ching and all of these things. But if you could explain how this works.
Exactly. Yes, using this system, there are 64 personalities that divide the human race. Each of your names is two of those personalities. Now, with this system, we use all of your documented names. We use your first name, middle name if you have one, or two middle names if you have them. We use your surname that you get from your father. We also use the maiden surname of your mother, which they do in quite a few countries around the world, and it is documented on most people's birth certificate. And we also use the number of the day that you were born. So just by doing some quick mathematics, 64 personalities, all these different names, you can see that the odds of somebody else having the same combination of personalities as you is 1 in 200 billion. So this system is as accurate as analyzing your DNA or your fingerprints.
Right.
And going back to the 64, well, of course, 64 is a very powerful number. There are 64 codons that make up your DNA, and they didn't know about codons and DNA thousands of years ago. There are 64 hexagrams in the I Ching. There's even 64 squares on a chessboard. So 64 on its own is a very, very powerful number. But yeah, there's 64 personalities. So you're the combination of all these personalities. It's not about one name. Any one name, for the most, is good. It's about the combination. It's kind of like looking at a piano. You can take one finger and you can press anywhere on a piano and it sounds pretty good. Some sound a little bit sweeter than others, but any one finger is good. It's when you have to take 2 or 3 fingers, 2 hands, and press several keys at the same time. If you get one finger, your pinky finger's out, it's like, well, it sounds pretty good, but I can detect a little slight fluffy noise. It's maybe a little off key or whatever. If you get 3 or 4 fingers in the wrong place, you start to make a horrible noise. Well, your names apply a similar action. So, yeah, it's about the personalities that makes up the basics of you. So, that's a powerful part of this system. And it also includes areas of mental and physical health as well. I mean, it's incredible what pops up in this. When I'm talking to a complete stranger whose names I've just analysed, it actually happened just the other evening. I was sitting there with a
party
couple.
trick, I'm sure.
They were asking what I did, so I just briefly told them. And so this guy said, well, tell me about my names. I said, well, there's a lot of calculations involved. But I said, look, we're sitting here, I've got a few minutes. So he just gave me his names and stuff. And the first thing that leapt out at me, because I know the system inside out, was, I said, you've got to be real careful with your breathing apparatus, the lungs, the breathing apparatus. And his wife was like, her jaw dropped to the floor. And she unbuttoned his shirt and said, yes, 3 years ago he had to have surgery on his lungs.
And I bet if you had his events chart in front of you, like it breaks down, you would have sliced right into that.
I could have probably even seen what year it was going to happen. Yeah, it is just amazing how much information this system pulls up. As you said, it's not numerology, but it's similar because we do use numbers for calculations. But that's about where it ends. And I've actually got testimonials from people who've been studying numerology and astrology and different systems for years. And they are quite happy to write a testimonial. Hey, why didn't we know about this sooner? This is just so powerful. It goes so deep. It goes into those areas that these other systems don't cover. This stuff, it digs up some of the dirt. I mean, it even talks about suicidal tendencies, rape, murder, all the health aspects. There's a whole long list of health aspects, mental and physical. I mean, there's not saying that your names can create attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, for example. But if you have a certain combination of letters, it can aggravate those conditions and blow them way off the charts, when normally it would just be a little bit of an issue, a problem, because your kids are, drinking too much Coca-Cola and eating candies and all the junk stuff that unfortunately too many people consume these days. It goes really deep, really deep.
Absolutely, and I know firsthand now because I've had a session with you, and it was incredible because we looked back at childhood, and we went through that events chart, and there were things that it was just like, well, had I known that at that time, and this is why I love you have this analogy about being prepared for the rain. And if you could just touch on that for a moment, so that way if someone does see a more negative letter coming into being.
One of the things that really drew me to this system, apart from the accuracy when I had my name analysed, it just blew me away, was that it doesn't give you too much information about the future. I mean, I like a few surprises, but it's nice to have a long-range weather forecast.
Sure.
So this system, it's not going to tell you, at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, you're going to meet a tall, dark stranger. He'll have a carnation in his lapel, and he'll be outside the train station at 4 o'clock. And guess what? You're going to get married, have 2.4 children, a dog, station wagon with wood down the side, and a picket fence. No, it doesn't tell you that. It gives you a long-range weather forecast. So if you know, for example, this is an annual forecast, but if, for example, you know that next week there's a good chance of thunderstorms, what do? Stay at home, hibernate? No, you've got to go out and get on with your life. But if you're smart, you'll take an umbrella with you. Right. And only if it does rain, pop up the umbrella, and guess what? You don't get wet because you were prepared. So there's lots of good information without giving you too much to take away some of the fun. So
and that's what I found so empowering about this, is it allowed me to see my shortcomings perhaps, or my challenges, and the places where I really needed to own that, several times I'm seeing this positive quality. I am that. I have that.
It gives you more confidence. So if, for example, you're thinking, hey, there's a promotion available within the company, and you think, I don't know if that maybe is a bit too much, bit above my pay grade, but you think, well, hang on a second, my name analysis says that I'm very good with communications, delegating, running a business, whether it's my business or somebody else. You know what? I can do that. And when you go in for the interview, once again, laws of attraction, power of intention, power of the subconscious mind, when you've got that attitude, hey, I can do this, you're going to come across way, way stronger and better when you have that interview, and it increases your chances of getting that job. So yes, you can use lots of these things to your advantage. One thing which often crops up is, well, you know, should everybody change their name? No. Just to give you some approximate numbers, because I've analysed thousands of names over the years now, generally speaking, about 10% of the population have names that are just like, incredible. I mean, great balance of personalities, an events chart with all these positive letters, clearing the pathway and opening doors and bringing in this invisible vibration that gets you up there on a crest of a wave. 10%. 40% approximately have names which are pretty good. You know, like yourself, you fall in the 40%. Do you need to change your names? No, not really. Could you? Well, of course you could, but do you need to? Well, no, you've got a few little dips here and there and a few little quirks and this and that, but now you've got this information, you can use it to your advantage. 40% of the population, yeah, they could really benefit from a name change, but very often we're just talking about taking out a middle name that you rarely use and replacing it with something really vibrant and that balances with your other names and brings out some positive letters. It's not about, you know, going overboard like I did. I mean, I wasn't born Lyon Zonamyari. I invented those names using this system, and boy, did it change my life. 10% of the population, oh dear. There's 10% of the population, and they are suffering so badly. More often than not, it's you know, stress, anxiety, worry, and insecurity, and phobias, and like I said, suicidal tendencies, suicidal thoughts. There is a percentage that their names are what I call a train wreck. You might be on the tracks 1 minute, but then all of a sudden a little comes along, it blows you off the tracks, you're derailed. And then you've got to struggle to get back on the rails, and you maybe get on the rails for maybe a year or two, and suddenly something else happens, you're derailed again. Right. So, no, this is not about saying everyone has to change their names. Everybody can benefit from a name analysis. Yeah. And obviously my book is fully instructional. But if you don't have the time to read and study, you can contact me and I will obviously do that for you. Oh, and by the way, if you go to my website, which is namesdoctor.com, you'll see the prices there. Mention I saw you on Shana's show, and you automatically get a discount. Oh,
thank you for that. I so appreciate that. That's so generous, and I have to say, because I'm in the middle of your leading towards the end of your book, because it's a really nice read. As far as you're just like more, and the information comes through so clear and crisp, and it's interactive. So I wasn't expecting that you've really empowered people. If they go out and grab your book, they're going to be able to some degree, break things down for themselves, for family members, and start to really have an understanding of this. So that thank you is what I'm getting at. That's fantastic.
The part in the book that I think quite a few people enjoy is the famous names, celebrities, where I've analysed the names and demonstrated the charts and so forth for about 20 different celebrities who are well-known celebrities, where their private life is very, very public. And it covers from the tragic side of like Heath Ledger, who several years back was just finishing the Batman movie, and it was kind of like I don't know if it's alcohol or drugs, but he overdid it. If you look through his names, I mean, the poor man, inside, he was burning up. He was so fragile, so sad. Amy Winehouse, similar sort of situation. It shows why the South African athlete with the prosthetic limbs, Oscar Pistorius, why he snapped, why he pulled the trigger and shot his girlfriend. I can tell you right now, that man, he is so gutted, so destroyed. He does not know himself why he snapped. Sure, they were having an argument, they had frequent arguments, but he snapped. And if you look at the combination of the personalities, it puts him on a knife edge. Yeah. And if you look at the chart for his life, that particular year, the combination of letters are just even more of a knife edge. As I put in the book, it's a Molotov cocktail. All it needed was just a match or a lighter, and poof, it was going to explode. And that's what happened. That's what happened. And I tried to reach out, through his lawyers and family.
Really?
Couldn't get in touch with anybody. I think if he at least had the information, it would give him a little bit of comfort.
Yes.
And then, of course, he'd probably change his names.
I know, and that's why this really is, to me, sort of it's fun to do and play with, but if someone really is suffering out there, this sometimes fills in that gap and is that missing link of, this is this emotional turmoil, or this is why I've been just attracting these atrocious situations, and boom, we can change it up, baby. And
it's an invisible energy, and like you were saying earlier, and I didn't actually get to fully answer your question, it's about symbols, ancient symbols. Mm-hmm. Some people listening in are probably aware of ancient pagan Masonic symbols and the power that they actually have. Mm-hmm. Just to give you an example, I mean, symbols are everywhere that we go. Yes. And they're used very frequently by the people who know about this stuff. So take, for example, Starbucks coffee. Why do you think people line up to pay excessive money for some frothy, frappe latte, whatever they call it? I'll tell you why. Okay, I'm not knocking the guys that set up the business. They had a good business plan. They put it together, hats off there. Right. But look at their logo. The logo that's outside every location, it's on their napkins, it's on their cups, it's everywhere. Yeah. It is an ancient mermaid siren. Maybe a lot of people don't know, well, what's an ancient mermaid siren? It's symbolic. It's a symbol. It sends out this message. Mm-hmm. I believe the story goes that there were actually three sisters, three mermaid sirens, and they were absolutely beautiful, drop-dead gorgeous. So much so that their family, the brothers and father and some of the henchmen pals, they used to use them. They would put them on the side of a pathway, along a canal, a river, where passing traffic would come by. And these girls were so beautiful, whoever was passing by, especially men, they had to stop and get a closer look. And when they got closer, the guys jump out from the bushes, cosh them, and steal everything from them. Wow. Okay? Now, mermaid sirens, they lure passing traffic. Men cannot resist the mermaid siren. Women adore the mermaid siren because of the power she has over men. Mm-hmm. So you've got a win-win situation, women and men. There's this subliminal message. I know it sounds crazy. A subliminal message resonating, coming out and saying, hey, come to me, look, come and take a look. Why do you think Versace uses Medusa as their logo? So enticing. You know you shouldn't, you know you can't afford it, but you just have to. It's enticing. You might turn to stone if you do, or you might get broke, but
your bank account will turn to stone.
With Nike, again, the guys put together a great business plan, but in those early days, you know that swoosh logo?
Yes.
that represents the wing of an ancient Greek god who was known for his speed and agility. That swoosh logo says speed and agility. You buy these shoes, you buy this clothing, you're going to have speed and agility. It sends a subliminal message out. It's amazing how many logos and symbols there are, and if you really research the actual meaning behind them, it's just mind-blowing. Now, letters of the alphabet are from ancient symbols, and these ancient symbols, when documented, like with your documented names, a birth certificate, and then your doctors and dentists and school and marriage certificates, divorce certificates, and so on. So documenting letters of your names, it actually creates a vibration that reflects on your personal body. It also sends out, the letters can send out a subliminal message. For example, if you're in the letter N, if that's in your chart, the N represents love and loving conditions. It says, hey, I'm here for love. I want to be loving, give love, share love. I'm all about loving. It's a little beacon that's flashing that sends out a subliminal message. However, if it's sending out a negative influence, loss, despair, anxiety, stress, worry, suicidal tendencies, there's even names that talk about rape and murder. Like I said, I mean, it's pretty deep. But as you go through the years of this chart, you are sending out a message to other people as well, a subliminal, invisible message. Hey, I'm all about success, power, and getting ahead in life. Or, oh, I'm weak and I'm feeble and I'm struggling to survive. It all comes from your names, and it's another fundamental principle of the universe, which I haven't told you the history, but it's been kept such a big secret for so long because a lot of people don't want the world to know what this name system's all about. Right.
We're easier kept as sheeple, as I say sometimes, the sheeple. So I know that's a Pandora's box we may or may not open later because
you might be opening Pandora's box there, because I can go on about so-called conspiracy theories and stuff for hours and hours.
Right, but I would love another title for that, because to me, when there's so much proof, how conspiracy doesn't resonate anymore. It's like.
Actually, the word conspiracy was actually invented by the CIA, and it was actually brought in after the assassination of Kennedy. And they invented that word, and they started using it in all the newspapers, which of course are owned by the same families that own everything on the planet. And they started using the word conspiracy theory or conspiracy theorist. And really, at the end of the day, a conspiracy theorist is just someone who digs really deep until they find the answers. I mean, all this, assassination all this talk about the assassination of Kennedy back in the 60s. I mean, anybody who knows anything knows exactly who did it. But the story's getting dragged on and dragged on and dragged on. The Twin Towers coming down. I mean, there's thousands of civil engineers and architects who staked their life on it, that it was brought down with controlled demolition. I mean, forget about the planes and the terrorists. It was a controlled demolition. Who can possibly rig those 3 buildings with thermite explosives?
Right.
It's an inside job. Exactly. But hey, we're not going to talk about conspiracy, are we?
No, not at all. So I want to get back to, again, we're talking about how important it is that it's a documented name. That's. I mean, it sounds like when you are a celebrity, and obviously then you have tons of albums and records and things, then you start having, is that like an unofficial documented name? But let's talk about the difference between a nickname, perhaps, a documented name, marriage, the separation of that and why that's significant.
Once again, just to reiterate, this system is about your documented names. This is what, perhaps makes it very different to the other name systems out there. Not putting them down, they all have something very good to offer. I mean, there's several different variations of numerology. There's the current Western numerology, there's the older Kabbalah system, and there's several offshoots. They all have something good to offer. They're very often linked to sounds, the resonance of sound. With this particular system, which makes it unique, it's the vibration from the symbol. So it's about the documented names. So nicknames really don't come into play. It's your documented names. Even middle names, mother's maiden name that you perhaps never use, it's on your birth certificate. And your birth certificate is your building block, your foundation. So a good example would be the rap artist married to Beyonce, Jay-Z. His real birth names, and he still is Sean Corey Carter. And if you analyze his names, he's actually a very smart guy. He's got a really good business head on his shoulders. Mm-hmm. But he decided to call himself Jay-Z, for the music industry, rap artist, and well, maybe he knew about the system, maybe he didn't. But Jay-Z, it's all positive letters. The J means he has to get involved in something to do with maybe business, family, relationships. It's usually for a good end result. The A only lasts for 1 year and adds activity to everything else going on. The Y comes in for 7 years and brings 7 years of success. And the Z, or the Z, depending on where you live, controls negative circumstances, and it brings out the best. It puts you on a pedestal, and people will pay attention and listen to what you have to say. So his original birth names were already pretty good, especially as far as business head, business mind. When he took on the nicknames Jay-Z, now because his nicknames are so heavily documented on record labels, on billboard posters, television, magazines. I mean, it's just worldwide. It's massive. He's getting a really strong resonance from Jay-Z. And he uses it every day, and he calls himself Jay-Z. Everyone else, they don't know him as Sean Corey Carter. Well, a few do, but he is Jay-Z. So in his case, yes, through strong documentation, it's like he got married to Jay-Z and took the name Jay-Z. You see, if Mary Jo Smith gets married to Mr. Brown, you'd think, oh, well, she's now Mary Jo Brown. Well, no, using this system, at no point did she delete or erase the name Smith. So she added Brown as another name into the configuration. So technically she's Mary Jo Smith Brown. Now, if she gets divorced and she does not revert back to her maiden name, she still carries the energy of that husband's name. Mm-hmm. I mean, if the marriage didn't work, why keep the name? But there are exceptions to the rule. We might have children and stuff going through school, and there are reasons. And I do actually have some clients where I say, hey, keep that name for another 5 years, but then get rid of it, because you're going to go into this negative mode. You don't need it, and the kids will be older. They've left school, so yeah, keep it for a certain period, but then get rid of it, or get rid of it now, or whatever the situation is. Nicknames, yeah, they don't come into play unless they're heavily documented. Oh, and talking about women getting divorced, if Mary Jo Smith gets married to Mr. Brown, becomes Mary Jo Smith Brown, technically, because she's never given up the Smith, then she gets married to Mr. Baker, and she gets divorced from him 5 years later, but doesn't go back to her maiden, and then she marries a Mr. whatever. Guess what? She's got all these names all mixing in, still resonating. Until you delete it by documentation, the energy is still following you. And the number of situations I have with women who've got that going on, and it just causes confusion within the mind. It's all this frustration. It's tugging, pushing, pulling. You're not sure which way to go. So, but of course, with names, it's quite ironic that in the Western world, or much of the Western world, women are expected to take their husband's name when they get married. It's just a dumb thing. Whereas if you go to Central America, South America, China, millions and millions of women who never ever take their husband's name. In fact, you go to these countries and say, oh, you're getting married, congratulations, so what's your new name going to be? And you're like, what? What are you talking about? Well, you're going to have your husband's name? No, why would I disrespect my family and take this man's name? Whereas in the Western world, it's the other way around. You're expected. Here's a good one. And you can check this on the internet. The figures are all there. In the Western world, divorce rate, everyone kind of knows it's about 50%. If you go and check on the divorce rate in Central America, South America, China, where women do not take their husbands' names in 99.9% of the cases, divorce rate is not 50%. It's not 40%. It's not 30%. It's 5%. 5%. You can argue, oh, culture, family, upbringing, religion, sure, but look at the difference. 50% to 5%, that's huge.
Right.
And how many times have you heard of a couple living together, happy for several years? They decide to get married, she takes his name, and within 6 or 12 months they're arguing, and the next thing you know they're breaking up, getting divorced. Not in all cases, but if you use this system, 9 times out of 10, you'll see how her taking his name didn't resonate well with her vibration, her balance, and it made a little shift, a change in her personality. She became a little bit more short-tempered instead of being quite so kind and loving, or this or that, or whatever it is, or the events chart with the letters, she went into a negative letter. He wasn't in it because he's a different age, but she went into one of his negative letters and bang, kaput.
Oh my gosh.
I see it all the time. So you were trying to say something.
Yeah, no, I was, because I had the same thought, that people could argue it was culture, upbringing, etc. But if we're talking about a world that exists upon vibration, then by them not taking that name, that is built into it's built into the vibration of the culture that they don't take on the name. So works both ways.
Sometimes taking your husband's name is great because it brings in some new energy that you don't have, and the letters from his name resonate nicely with your events chart, and very often it works great, but not always. When you say your wedding vows, in sickness and in health, for better or for worse, you've got no idea what you're letting yourself in for if you take your husband's name without checking this system first, because it's so accurate. And like I said, very often, you take that guy's name. It's going to be great for you, but you're literally rolling the dice. If you don't, check it out first, you might be rolling the dice, and it could be a bad crap game, where you lose everything.
Yeah. So take note, ladies, if you're thinking about it, go check out Lyon's book first. I really recommend that. And also, if you're going to be naming your child, I think it's
yes. I mean, very often you can say, well, hey, I don't want some stranger, naming my child. No, I don't do that. And even when I work with clients for a name change, it's all about you. It's what you want. The first things that I'm asking is are there any names that you want to keep? You want to keep your first name or your last name or whatever it is, you tell me, because we will work around that. Obviously, with a child, you're not sure what the birthday is going to be unless it's a C-section, which they do a lot in places like China, because they pick specific days because of their theories with the number 8 being the most lucky number and so on and so on, but that's a whole other story. So you do have the father's name, which is fixed, and the mother's maiden name, which is fixed. If you read through my book, you'll see that with my daughter, she wanted to get married and she wanted to have a baby, but she thought, well, hang on a second, I better ask my dad how this is going to pan out. And I said, no, your maiden name that you have now, my original surname, it's not going to work well with your husband's name. And if the kids have your name and his name, it ain't going to work. It's going to get you off to a really bad start. So she actually legally changed her name to his name before they got married. And then they got married, so now she already had the same last name as him. So on the birth certificate for the children, it's only got the one name. It hasn't got the two names. You know, so there's so many ways you can work around this. And there are even occasionally cases where, you know what, this name and that name don't go well together, and we can do this and do that. But hey, let's do the best that we can now, and it's going to be good. It's maybe not going to be the ultimate best, but you can always do another name change for that child yourself down the road, or when the kid gets to being, you know, of age, they can decide for themselves if they want to do a little modification again. But in most cases, we with the baby names, we get it right first time. It's not that difficult. And it's like, so the mother says, I like the name Amy. I say, what a lovely name, Amy. Are we talking about A-M-I, A-M-I-E, A-M-Y, A-M-E-Y, A-M-I-E-E? Which one do you want? Because they all sound the same, but they all resonate totally different. And they'll create a totally different events chart.
That's so fantastic. And it's funny, I'm going to jump into the card I chose earlier because I feel like now we know why this number came up. I pulled a card for the collective consciousness, and the number 63 came out, and it's affiliated with parenting. And I'm finally getting a hit on what this was about, because I feel as we are moving into this new vibration, this higher paradigm, that parenting the kids, it's like, let's start now from the ground up. Let's bring this ancient system back, and let's make, for the next generation, if you're pregnant with child, let's start them out the gate just vibrating high energy.
Exactly. And the history on this system, this system was used by the ancients to name their children for a healthy, happy, and prosperous life. And it's even ancient Kabbalah tradition. If your life was not going the way you'd hoped and planned, people would change their names with or even without the system. They would just roll the dice. Well, hey, let me change my name. It can't be any worse than this. Right. And changing names has been around for thousands of years. And this system, it actually, we actually have documented proof. 10,000 years ago, there was an ancient hieratic papyrus that was discovered in Egypt. It's now stored in the Louvre Library in Paris. Translation was actually done about 120, 150 years ago. And it's actually known as the Book of the Master of the Secret House, which is also known by some as the Book of the Dead. So it is documented 10,000 years ago. 3,000 years ago, the whole system is in the Chinese way of life, documented 3,000 years ago. It's in the Indian Vedas. There's really long, complicated versions in the Hebrew Kabbalahs. It's been bouncing around for years, and it's only really more recently, 1929, two sisters from Chicago, they stumbled across the system, and they'd already been studying all these different name systems for years, and they came across this one, and this was the one that they stuck with until the day that they died. They died just after the Second World War. Their book was produced in 1929, which is actually called The Fundamental Principles of the Yi King Tao, the Kabbalahs of Egypt, and the Hebrews. And that's where my book comes from. It's based on their work. All I've done, I've just cracked a little mathematical formula to move things up a little notch. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you can get a reprint of their 1929 book, and you can compare it with my book, and you go, yeah, there's all this stuff is very, very similar. I've just updated it, modernized it a little bit. I haven't changed the system. I didn't invent the system. I'm not that smart. I'm not that clever. But yeah, it's been kicking around for thousands of years. And like I said, it's so powerful. A lot of people out there try and keep it quiet. Like, why do they try and keep certain things quiet? Like, what really is the true story with JFK? Why do they try and keep it quiet? Because they don't want you to know the truth sometimes.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I want to talk specifically about, I love the proof that there's so much proof that takes place with this system. And I want to talk about the physical and mental impacts that the letters in combination, the vibration can have. Because I know your personal story, I'm not sure if you're comfortable sharing it, but it had to do with alcoholism, and how when you literally changed your name,
I changed my life.
You lost your taste for it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah. I struggled with alcohol problems. Well, I came from a background of a family who, well, they weren't alcoholics, but they were all drinkers. And so as I grew up, I started drinking heavily from the age of 15. And I thought, as I was going through my years, I'm a social drinker. I work hard by day and I drink hard by night. I was actually a binge drinker. Anyway, several times I tried to kick it because it was messing up with my liver and gallbladder and all sorts of issues and problems. And even though I went through a massive spiritual growth, which actually started when I was a kid, but it only really accelerated when I got into my 30s, I just, I thought I was grounded and in more control of my destiny and stuff, but my personal life was still this alcohol problem. Plus also, had I been born in modern times, I would probably have been diagnosed bipolar as a kid, because I had a very, very strong extrovert personality, a very strong introvert personality, and then I had names which had high mental activity. That combination is not always good. It puts you on a bit of a knife edge and you swing. I was unpredictable. I'd swing from wildly extrovert to wildly introvert. So all this stuff going on. Yeah. And when I actually discovered the system and thought, wow, I mean, it even pinpointed to the year 3 bankruptcies that I've had. I've always been in business for myself. Had I just had a job, maybe I would have lost my job and struggled for a year or two getting back on top again. But I always had my own business, and I was always heavily into the bank, always trying to expand the business, build it up, big overdrafts. And every time that I came into the letter U from the name Paul, well, P was for power. The A adds activity, the L is for advancement. So there are all these good letters which actually would run for 11 years, and then the U would come in for 3 years. So 3 out of every 14 years, the U would come in. It doesn't have to be serious loss, because it's about the other letters from the other names. But I would have, for example, the O from my middle name, which is money and stability. So money and stability, lost. I would also have a U from my surname that would sometimes coincide in the same year with the U from the Paul, so double loss. My 3 bankruptcies, anyone who knows me would say, what's going on? You got the same location, same employees, you're taking care of business. I said, I don't know. It's like there's this dark cloud hanging over me. And yet at the same time, in England, in the late 1980s, there was a big depression, similar to the same thing that happened in the USA and most of the world in 2008. And I can think back then, and I was just flying high. There was this so-called recession. I was getting all the business, making all the money. And I can remember thinking to myself, hey, I know I'm pretty good at my job, but I'm not that good. I'm not this good. Why is it everyone's laying off staff and I'm just going from strength to strength? It was because I was in the P from the Paul, and I had some other positive letters from my other names that were all there in the chart at the same time. I was untouchable. Just the same as if we get the opportunity to look at the chart for George Clooney, for example, you'll see his rise to fame is incredible, and it's all shown in his chart. If you also look at Anne Hathaway, she's got some pretty good personalities, but very, very edgy, very, very sensitive, very edgy, and the letters from her chart when she was in her early teens were all about worry and stress and anxiety. She openly admits, well, she says that she didn't have to resort to medication, but she was on the verge of a nervous breakdown when she was a teenager, and it shows in her charts. And yet, when she got to like 19, 20 years old, and the positive letters kick in, boof, her career takes off, and it hasn't stopped. Miley Cyrus, I mean, she changed her names. I don't know if she knew the system, I don't think so, maybe she just got lucky, but she's got this huge run of success, which is just going to keep rolling on and rolling on. But at the same time, you remember how she used to be the cute little girl next door, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, she's
naked on a wrecking ball, yeah.
Pornographic stuff, you know. That shows in the change of personalities that she suddenly had. When she changed from her birth names, it shows up that these new personalities came in that were extremely extrovert, wanting to gain attention, which she didn't have before. She was quite, you know, subdued and settled and nice and so on and so on. But the events chart that she has is incredible. Also in the book I talk about Rihanna and her incredible success that came in from all these great letters in her events chart. Simon Cowell, you know, from American Idol and America's Got Talent and so forth. It all just, it's there. It's there. And I don't make this stuff up. I'm just using the system. I present the system to people and I show them what's happening. When I'm talking with clients, it's like we had our first conversation basically when I analyzed your names. I don't know you. I've never met you before. We had a brief conversation before that when you said, would you like to come on my show? I said, yeah, great. Let me please analyze your names so you have first-hand experience. And I was telling you stuff and how does this guy come up with stuff? It's in the names, it's in the chart. And it's like, wow. Who would think your names can influence your life? It blew me away.
Yeah.
And it still blows me away today when I'm talking to complete strangers and I have to say something that's a little bit edgy, but I say it, and they go, you're exactly right. I'm like, first of all, it's wow. Who would imagine?
Right.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
So I want to know why this doesn't exactly seem to apply to words, because words are documented in dictionaries and we've got words documented. What is your take on that? It seems like it's a little different with typical nouns.
You can use numerology. Whether it's the Western system that uses numbers 1 through 9 or the older Kabbalah system that kind of leaves out the 9, goes from 1 to 8, but they both have the 11 and the 22 as prime numbers. You can use those systems and you can draw quite a bit from words, more so like names of a business, you know. That's where it really comes in. Okay. But if you dig really deep, there are lots of different systems out there that are all about names, but at the end of the day, it comes down to two basic things.
Okay.
You can talk about the vibration that comes from the symbol,
right,
or you can talk about the sound that it produces. And numerology and all these other systems, most of them are all talking about the sound. That's why with numerology, there's, what is your nickname? I must include your nickname when I do the calculations, you know, because it's the sound. But this particular system that I use is very unique in that it's based on ancient symbols. And for example, if I have a client who is born in Russia, and they have a birth certificate there, which is in Cyrillic. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do with that because the symbols are all totally different. It's not the Roman alphabet. This system, as we have it today, has been updated and modernized to the Roman alphabet. However, if they are born in Russia and then when they're a teenager, they emigrate to the USA, they'll be given new documentation, and they'll say, well, what is your name? And they'll say, blah, blah, blah. And so, okay, well, the immigration officer, okay, I would spell that like this. That's your new name. That's your new name. So you then do get names using the Roman alphabet. So because you have left that country to start a new life somewhere else, you have effectively done a legal documented name change. So the old names are done, finished, and your new names are using the Roman alphabet. So there are exceptions where I can't, accommodate in certain cases, but if it's the Roman alphabet, yeah, it's all down to the symbols, and the vibration, like I was talking about, the mermaid sirens and Medusa, the swoosh logo, you got the Chevron logo, Texaco. Look at all these big corporations. These logos that lots of them have, they're not just for branding.
Right.
There's a symbolic meaning behind it. So not in all cases. There are some which are purely for branding purposes, and they don't know anything about ancient pagan or Masonic logos, so they just come up with something pretty that they like. And if it works for them, hey, great.
Right.
But you go deep down the rabbit hole, and logos are everywhere, and the vibration is just out there. It's out there.
Exactly. Subliminal vibrations all the time. I'm curious if Target knows. I mean, it's pretty obvious there what the Target symbol is, but that place just, and I'm trying to think of what Amazon symbol is, because they've really skyrocketed too.
Well, they also have what is effectively similar as a wing. Mm-hmm. It's to symbolize that they can supply everything from A to Z, but it's with speed and agility. Once again, it's the swoosh type logo, speed and agility. Anything you want from A to Z with speed and agility, it's yours.
Right.
They haven't gone, like overboard, but they have incorporated. They obviously called in a expert to help them with a logo, and the guy said, "Well, look, this symbolically it works for a lot of people. Do you want to try it? Do you want to use it?" And then, sure, why not? Yeah. Any little extra helping hand that we can get, we need, because you're starting a new enterprise.
Right.
And if you've done your due diligence, if you've got a pretty good game plan, and if you then have an extra helping hand, like if for example your personal names are into these good powerful letters that clear the pathway for you, and you've got a good business name with a good business logo, it's almost like you're untouchable. Like I was untouchable for a few years in the late 1980s, but as soon as I came out of that P, I went into the A for 1 year where there was a lot of activity going on, and then next year the U, everything crashed. And it's like, what happened? Who pulled the plug? Who turned off the light switch?
Yeah, what did I do?
Put back on, please. But you can't, because you don't know. But when you have all the information, you have the system, when you have your name analyzed, when you produce the charts, or I produce them, or you produce your own charts, you can see what's going on. And you don't have to be an expert on this like I am. I mean, this is what I do. This is why I eat, sleep, breathe. I've been doing this now for years, and I'm on lots of shows like yours and radio shows and so forth. So I have clients all around the world. But it's not rocket science. You can read the book and you can pretty much get the general gist of it. And then you say, well, I'm thinking maybe about doing a little name change modification or something. Sure, you can do it yourself, but at least come to me for an hour consultation so I can cross the T's and dot the I's just in case you've overlooked something, because you're taking a big step when you change your name. And if you're going to do it, get it right. Don't play around with it. Or if you want me to do it for you, you are going to have to be fully involved. It takes two of us. There's a lot of hours back and forth with emails and phone calls, Skype conversations. We're bouncing ideas backwards and forwards, putting it into the charts. And eventually it's like, you'll say, hey, you know what? I've got a good feeling about this one. Let me send it to Lyon. And I come back and say, hey, you know what? This one's really good. I like it too. We've got a winner here. Sometimes, if that happens really quickly, I'll say to the client, look, we've done this in just a few hours. let's just dig a little bit deeper, because we have got another set of numbers that we could play around with. So let's just go a bit further. And so we do, but eventually we come up with something else, or maybe a third one. And very often the clients say, you know what, I've still got this thing about the first one. And I say, you know what, all three of them are good. All three of them are great. Whichever one you want, they're all going to be great for you. They're going to clear that pathway for you. Yeah. It's now up to you. And it's all about you. You have to tell me what you want, what you like. And we just work together and we make it happen. And if you look through the testimonials, I've lost count of the testimonies that I have now. I mean, there's well over 100, maybe 200. But I've got testimonials for the book. I've got testimonials for people whose names I've analysed. I've got testimonials for people who've had babies. I've got testimonials from people who've changed their names. As they say, if things keep repeating so often, it can't be coincidence. Well, it can't be coincidence. I've got so many testimonials from people saying, wow, incredible.
Yeah. So this is something that could apply to a business name, perhaps?
I do help people with business names,
okay.
But that is more around numerology.
Numerology, okay.
And what I do with business names, it's involving a little bit of name reality. I've kind of mixed the two a little bit, but it's predominantly based on numerology because it's not reflecting upon the human body. But you can say, well, Bing, Yahoo,
Google.
I mean, if you look at some of the letters these guys have got, it's like, well, according to name reality, these are positive letters. The
Google is
Yahoo, for success. Bing with the N, the G is for gains, N is for loving conditions. B can bring in intuitiveness and make you very sharp. I mean, the list goes on and on. But with business names, it's not just about your business name. What I do is a whole little package. We have your business name, which if you're just a self-employed person, it's whatever you decide to be, but you might be incorporated or limited. Are you going to put INC or the full incorporated? Because it makes a big difference when you look at it on that level.
Right.
So it's first of all the business name, but also you're going to have a website. Everyone has a website if they have a business these days, so we have to look at your website name as well. Well, www is not included. The dots are not included. But the com or net or org is included within the whole package. So very often we come up with an overall little flow. For example, if you want a smiley t-shirt business, your predominant business name or your website name, they have to signify happy, fun, carefree. So we work numerically in that direction. Mm-hmm. However, for your email address or for your phone number, if you have choice of phone numbers, we might go for something which is a 7, which is about business, communications, being efficient. So it sends out an invisible resonance. Hey, I think I will email this person or call this person. I get a feeling they're going to be responsive and this is going to be good. Certain numbers are very artistic and creative. If you're in the business as a doctor, a chiropractor, you want something that resonates caring and loving. And you can create all of this with business names. So when you're talking about words and names, if you're talking about a business name, that's a good example. That's where we can actually bring in some good vibration. You've got to have a good game plan. You can't, try and open up a refrigerator business selling to Eskimos. You're not going to get many customers. But if it's a pretty good game plan, if your personal names are actually in good shape, because that's very important, your personal names, if you're going into this dip, and even if your business partner's going into a dip, because I do compatibility with couples, your children, or for business partners, very often, there's one business partner who seems to be doing all the work and getting ahead, and the other one, what's going on? Well, it's because he's in this dip. So the other one, if you want to continue this partnership, know that your business partner is not as strong as you right now, but maybe it might switch around the other way in 3 years from now. So you carry each other, you work together. The same thing with relationships, husbands and wives.
Yeah.
All this comes out. Yeah. All comes out. I actually analysed the name. A lovely guy, really nice guy. I got on so well with him, and his names were just. I mean, his personalities were great, but his events chart was just diabolical. It's just so negative. Aww. But the guy had a big smile on his face, you know. And I said, well, tell me a bit more about yourself, you know, because your events chart is really not very good. He said, yeah, I've had a lot of downs, lots of downtimes. He said, but, you know, my wife and I, we met in high school, you know, we've been married now for 50 years, and I'll be honest, you know, she really is the breadwinner. She always has a good job, and when I go through my dips and my business folds or I lose my job, we still have a roof over our heads, we still have food on the table. She's always got enough coming in to keep us both going, you know. So I said, well, let me look at your wife's names very, very quickly. Again, great personalities that gelled very nicely with his personalities. Her events chart was full of positive letters. So you see, just because your life, you know, is not working out so well, if you've got a close partner working with you, you can support each other. I mean, it goes even way, way beyond that. I mean, even when you're having physical contact with people, especially when you're having sex, the transfer of energy is immense. It's huge. Mm-hmm. You know, so just because you're not doing so well, it might not be hitting you so hard because you're getting good support from your loving partner. Or it could be completely the opposite, and you're on the verge of, you know, breakup, divorce, and
good stuff.
I get every scenario you could possibly imagine, and when it comes to these relationship scenarios, 9 times out of, not in every case, because you have to understand, names, yeah, this is a fantastic system, but it's not the Holy Grail. It's not the only thing that influences our lives. Right. You can look at astrology, which is down to a date, time, and place of birth. A good astrologer can come up with some incredible stuff about your past, present, and even predictions for the future, which are just mind-blowing. You can look into astrocartography, which is where you actually live. Now, when I moved to the little island, just south of the Cayman Islands, at first, I was thinking, well, I've got my new names, I feel good, but why are things not moving fast? I suddenly discovered astrocartography. Well, for me, just for me, because of my date, time, and place of birth, Saturn runs very, very close to this little island. And when I understood what Saturn is all about, the forces, the energy, I thought, oh, so I got to be a little bit more respectful, a little bit more humble. I have to understand I do need to work harder to reach my goals. I thought, well, that's no problem. I can do that, just like popping up the umbrella if it starts to rain. I can do that. Mm-hmm. And everything shifted and changed. And as the months went by, from where I was trying to get in touch with people like you to get this information out, now I got people coming to me. Say, hey, you want to come on the show? You want to come on the show? We want to hear more about this. You know, it's all about understanding fundamental principles of the universe. One of the biggest ones, which is also one of the most difficult ones to actually investigate, is karma, especially past life negative karma. Well, this is my 72nd visit here on planet Earth in a human body. I've been back through most of them, and it's amazing how we keep reconnecting with the same people, but they're just wearing a different body. You know, it's like if your father suddenly walked into the room right now dressed up as Santa Claus and said, ho, 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 Charlotte, you'd say, oh, hi, Dad. You would know it's him, despite the outfit, you know. But it's the same thing when you do past life regressions. And I've been back through, I spent years and thousands of hours doing it. Fascinated, you know. And when you understand, for example, you know, sorry if I'm going on a little bit and going off track here, but
you have so much knowledge. I love it.
When I was living in Miami, I was having a pretty successful business. Things were going pretty well. And there was a guy who actually came to me for a job. And I said, I'm sorry, I've just filled those jobs. They said, come on, give me a job. And the guy kept calling me every couple of weeks. I thought, this guy's not going to give up. But he seemed a nice enough guy, so I thought, I'll give him a job. It ended up a couple of years later, I actually gave him a franchise within the business. And he's the one who stabbed me in the back and cheated, lied, stole. I mean, the stuff this guy did was unbelievable. And all I did from the get-go was help him. And the things that I was going to do to him in revenge, retaliation. But my girlfriend said, you know you can't do that.
Yeah.
You know that this is something karmic. So another regression. And sure enough, I was the bad guy. The stuff that I did to him several hundred years ago is unspeakable. So the fact that he's now done what he did is balancing the negative karma. Now, it's not good for him. It's not good for him because now he's done something bad again, so he has to balance his negative karma in his next life.
Right.
In this life, this is potentially my last visit. I do have one more available if I want to take it. I'll actually be here till June the 12th, 2050. I'll be 93 when I die in this life. I'll be dying at 5 o'clock in the morning. Greenwich Mean Time. When I actually leave this body, this bicycle, this car that I've been using for transportation, I can actually step into a full-grown adult body, Illuminati status, good Illuminati status, top bloodline, very, very well-known personality. I can step into that body, and I'll step in with all my memory, which is I wouldn't say it's rare, but it's quite unusual, and it would be quite amazing to have all my memories and step into this new body, which will be a major personality. I do have information about it, which I'll share in my next book. But the one little thing is that the body's going to be a female body, and I have no problem. I mean, I've been a woman before, but I'm just thinking if I go into this female body with all my memories, and I'm going to be young again, how am I going to have sex? I don't want to have sex with a man. Guess I'm going to have to be a lesbian. So, yeah, past life karma, that can kick you so hard. Yeah. But sometimes, if you can't investigate it, know one thing for sure, there are no accidents on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. Everything happens for a reason. Everything. Yeah. Even when a plane falls out of the sky and 200 people die, it's very sad, but it's not an accident. Mm-hmm. Everybody before they even came here, they knew, before the memory was wiped when you come into the body, they knew when they had the preview of the options of different bodies they could choose. This one was, potentially, I say potentially, because we all create our actual universe as we go along by thoughts, decisions, and actions. And every moment today reflects upon tomorrow. But there was a potential body there with this wonderful life with all these husbands and wives and kids and mothers and fathers and this and happy, and gonna have a plane crash and gonna die. Wow, that's the one I want. Sometimes it's sacrificing yourself because the family members you're leaving behind need to go through the emotional experience of losing a loving father.
Yeah. This is such an important perspective, I think, to hold, because once that presented itself in my life and I was able to see things that way, any issue or challenge that arose, you're able to at least sit in a place of gratitude, knowing that, okay, I'm just in the middle of pop quiz in life right now, or there's something, a chapter that I'm learning, a lesson plan that's playing out here. So thank you for bringing that up.
At the same time, it's no accident when somebody gets up late that morning and misses that flight. It wasn't an accident.
Right.
Just to finish off on that one, just a little quickie if I can add it in. Mm-hmm. During my past life regressions and stuff, and this also links to my second mentor. She passed away 3 years ago. Well, she actually took an exit point. She had to leave the body and go back home. First conversation I had with her, she said, "Yeah, I'm back home. Things are pretty good here, getting back into the swing." And so, I wanted to share something with you. She said, "Back here, back home, let's call it heaven, where you don't have the physical body, you're just the energy, the light force. She said, we don't have the physical body, of course, the five senses, but we don't have emotions. And she said, we're all like Dr. Spock in Star Trek, very logical, but no emotions. And that resonated with me so beautifully, because there was a regression that I had,
long and prosper.
And I actually knew that a soulmate was going off to have this lifetime. Was going to be in a girl's body. She was going to be brutally raped when she was a young teenager, put into sex slavery. She got syphilis at an early age, which wasn't curable in those days, and she died when she was 19 years old from all the disease and all the horror. Anyway, I died, came out of my body, and I was arriving at the pearly gates, and all of a sudden, my soulmate friend is standing right next to me. I said, wow. I said, hey, we're back both at the same time. This is cool. Which is quite amazing, because do you know 150,000 people die every day on this planet? The 350,000 are being born. Actually, planet Earth is the busiest vacation destiny in the universe. Anyway, I knew the life that she had. I said, how'd you get on? She said, wow, it was incredible. It was amazing. Now, I wouldn't want to do it again. But it was an emotional experience.
Wow.
Because if you have no emotions back home, it doesn't matter if you have a happy emotion or a sad, horrible emotion. An emotion is an emotion. And you need to go through all the roles, because life on planet Earth, it's a big movie. It's a big theatrical play, and you get to play all the parts as you go along through your journey, through all these incarnations. You be the good guy, the bad guy, the lover, the crazy person. You get to play all of them. And at the end of the day, it's getting to that end journey and saying, well, I've played all the parts in this movie, and it's been great. And you know what's so great about this movie? Sure, the script is basically there, but the director of this movie on planet Earth encourages you not to read the script, to improvise, to ad-lib, because we create our own world as we go along by thoughts and decisions and actions, and every moment today reflects upon your tomorrow. So don't be afraid to step out of the box, but take little steps, build up your confidence. This is what the laws of attraction, the power of intention, is all about. Unfortunately, some people have this little blockage that blocks their pathway, their names. If you're in negative mode temporarily or for a few years or for life, boy, is it going to be hard. But guess what? Life is about choices. The director of the movie encourages us to do this. And now, all you've got to do is get a copy of my book, read it for yourself, and you can think, well, hang on, if I change my names, maybe I can make a shift. Within reasonable boundaries, you can make changes, serious changes. One day, one step at a time. So I do tend to talk a lot.
You have so much information, like I said. I think this is just scratching the surface of what you do. But I do want to come back to, because we talked about the names itself, and then if we could just touch a bit on the birthday. And I found it interesting that it's the birthday. It didn't seem that the month or year had as much significance. So if you could touch on that.
Well, it is about the number of the day that you were born.
Okay.
Correct. It's nothing, well, the month and the year, it only really applies on a small level, because your events chart, the second part of this system where we produce the chart, it changes on your birthday. So obviously you need to know your birthday as to which day and month you start the next cycle. But it's just the number of the day that you were born. And I'll be honest, no one's ever asked me that question before. And I don't have a good answer for it. But I will channel it, and I'll see what comes back, because that is an interesting question, and I'm sure there's a very, very good answer. Obviously, it's not going to include the month and the year, because then you're getting into numerology again.
Right.
Because with numerology, they do get, the numbers of the day, month, year, and put them all together, and they add them to your names and subtract them and multiply them and play around with those. Mm-hmm. We don't do that with this system. This system, it is all about the actual resonance of the actual symbols.
Yeah.
That's good question. Yeah. Good question. I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay. All right. We'll be back with that, folks. So.
Come back on your show again to talk about birthdays?
You have so much information. You are always invited. Let's just put that out there. Just always, you've got like a trump card. So this has been such a brilliant conversation, and I just, again, appreciate your knowledge so much. But to kind of tie it all together in a bow, what would be like the top 3 things that you really want people to take away from this knowledge? And you can make them 4 or 5. And
how much time am I allowed to talk?
Well, I know that this is something that can really affect a person's life. I mean,
at the end of the day, you can get the ebook for $9.99, the paperback for $19.99, the hardback for $29.99. It's not going to break the bank to have all this information in front of you, and just follow the step-by-step instructions, and you'll start to see, wow. Yeah. So if your life is not going the way you'd hoped and planned and dreamed, and you feel like there's these blockages somewhere, and you've, gone down the traditional methods of, trying to use the laws of attraction, think positive, speak positive, you've tried all these different vehicles and nothing seems to be breaking through, there's a very high possibility that your names are creating a disruption there. So when you have the information, you don't have to change your name. Just because it might be thunderstorms next week, just carry an umbrella. Simple as that. If it rains, pop up the umbrella, don't get wet because you were prepared. So really, if your life is not going the way you'd hoped and planned, check it out. If you're going to have a baby, what a wonderful gift. I mean, if you know someone that's having a baby, get a copy of the book. Get them a copy of the book as a gift, but do it in advance before the baby's born. So at least they can decide, well, I like Amy, but according to this book, AMY, with the Y for 7 years of success and the M for 4 years of changes and the A adding a year of activity, will balance nicely with the family names, and it's better than spelling it this way or that way. Don't sort of lose track of where you're supposed to be, because those names are already there, but how you spell them can be a big difference. So don't just say, oh, I have to come up with a name that's full of positive letters. No, it's not about all, happy. You've got to have some ups and downs. Life would be boring. I mean, it's like I say to clients, picture a 12-year-old boy. His birthday's coming up next week. His dad walks in the room and said, son, it's your birthday next week. I'm taking you to Disney. Yeah, the boy's so happy. Oh, thank you, Dad. You're the best. You go to Disney, have a great time. Next year, does it again. Next year, does it again. One day, a little time passes by, and Dad walks into his boy's room, and the boy says, Dad, stop. I love you, Dad. You're my best friend. But I'm 21 next week. I cannot go to Disney anymore. Yeah. Let's do something different. Hey, I'm going to be 21. Take me to a strip club. Get me a lap dance. Get me drunk on some expensive brandy and smoke a big fat Cuban cigar. We can't have the same thing over and over and over. We need to be moving, shifting. And that's what the actual lifetime's about. Having a different role in the movie. But you can make a shift and a change in this movie that you're in right now. And there's lots of ways out there you can do it. Like I said, you don't have to change your names, but if you feel there's these blockages, could be coming from your names. And it's not very hard to check it out and go, okay, yeah. Now you know what to do. So, and if you think about getting married, and if you think about taking your husband's name, I have nothing against, people following, doing what other people do. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, why do you think you speak the language that you speak with the accent that you have? It's because of surroundings, family, environment. Why do some kids that they're like 3-4 years old, they speak 2 or 3 languages fluently? You think, my God, this child is amazing. No, it's just programming from birth. We're all programmed, but you have the ability to make little shifts and changes within the programming. So step out the box a little bit sometimes and explore.
Yeah, that is so fantastic. And I think that I just want to let everyone know I'm going to be posting more about this card, all of the information we've discussed, so people can start to get a taste and maybe work on this themselves. But I think that's really why this parenting card came in strong, this number 63. I'll post more about it on Instagram, etc. But I just want to thank you again. Let's give a shout out to namesdoctor.com. That's the best place to reach you, see what other things you have available, to book a session. Again, mention me, Shauna, or Heart on Radio, get a little discount, and thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And Name Reality. I mean, you can find it at all the bookstores. I got mine on Amazon, and also you can download it on Kindle.
Yep. It's only available online. It's not actually in the physical bookstores. And at the moment, it's only in English. I do have a translation in Spanish, which is in progress. I can't tell you how long it's going to be, but it is in the pipeline. Have a look through some of my testimonials. I mean...
it's a fun rabbit hole to go down, I'll tell you.
So many different experiences that different people have had through just having their names analysed, either by me or doing it themselves with the book. It's a wonderful journey. It's a nice bit of exploration to know just enough without revealing too much. Like I said, I like to have a few surprises. But if there's something a little bit negative, it's good to have a little bit of forewarning. So if you know that next year things are not looking too good on the financial side, it's simple. Keep it tight. Don't think about switching your pension to another company or selling your house and moving somewhere else. Sit tight. Keep what you've got there. It's very simple. It's very easy. Don't, think, someone gave me a hot tip on a stock item. I'm going to put $100,000 into this. Well, if you're in negative mode, there's a good chance it ain't going to work out for you. So just sit tight right through the storm. It's quite simple, really, when you have the information. Make hay while the sun shines as well. When it's looking good, that's when you say, you know what? I've really checked out this option on this stock, and I think that's the way to go. And if you're in positive mode, and if you've done your due diligence, then go with your gut feeling as well, go with your intuition. It's probably going to work well for you. But not when you're in negative mode. You've got these invisible brick walls in front of you.
Exactly. Well, this has been so enlightening and empowering, and I just can't say enough good things about you, and I'm just so appreciative again for you spending your time and space and energy. Go out and check out his websites, go out and grab the book. You're going to have so much fun. You're going to learn things along the way. So thank you again, Lyon, for your time, and I look forward to potentially having you on, with some other topics down the line. We'll see.
Well, I am actually working on my next book, which is The Meaning and Purpose of Life on Planet Earth. Why are we here? Where do we come from? What's it all about? And what happens next?
Wow.
I got all the answers, so.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, then we will have to have you back then. Thank you. That is so brilliant. Enjoy the rest of your day. And again, thank you all for tuning in to Heart on Radio. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and infinite blessings to us all.